Just kidding. You're about to see an interview with John Truman Wolf, best-selling author, ex-senior credit control officer for two major banks in America. Get to hear the real inside of what's really going on. Gold, silver, platinum, paper money, cryptocurrencies, regulated cryptocurrencies. What do the banks and the governments really think about this? Come and join us for this inside look. This interview is a lot of fun. I had a great time and it really answered some questions for me. I know it will for you too. I'm Mike King and this is On the Ropes.
It's where I'm focused now because I've not, in my lifetime, I've never seen a titanic shift like this in global finance. This is a big deal. The entire monetary system of the planet is changing. And I'm keeping track of it with that newsletter. I want folks to understand what's going on.
Thank you so much for giving me this interview today. I mean, yeah, well, we'll see what time it is because it's 5 p.m. in Sydney, Australia, Monday afternoon, and it's 12 a.m. midnight, Los Angeles time, San Pedro's Forest, north of LA, middle of the night, or is it the morning over there already? It must be a full moon because the wolf is up at midnight.
Well, there's actually a beautiful sliver of a moon out tonight, and
yes,
as you know, we're up in the Los Padres National Forest, which is about an hour north of LA. We're 6,000 feet up here. The air is pristine. The views are stunning. There's wildlife everywhere, and we're just an hour, a little more, but just about an hour from LA. So. It's gorgeous up here. We moved up here 3 years ago out of Hollywood, out of Los Angeles, and we love it.
That's gorgeous. Wow. Yeah, when you get the slither of the moon there, my son and myself we call it Jesus's fingernail.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow, beautiful. So we haven't got the full moon yet, but thank you so much for joining us on this interview. I'm super excited because we've opened up this series, which is The Godfathers of Good. And here we are, The Godfathers of Good Part 3. You're the third Godfather we've managed to track down. And I've got some questions for you today.
Well, Mike, fire away. I'm anxious to, dive in.
Fantastic. The first one, I was just too curious. Why did you request Sunday night, midnight, to do a Zoom meeting by video? I couldn't think of a more off the planet time to do an interview across to the other side of planet Earth. What was it about midnight? Why did you request that time?
Well, I was just, we were back and forth a little bit on the timing. I was just trying to work something out that would work for the both of us. I keep very strange hours, Mike. I usually go to bed around 5 a.m. LA time, and up, and by the time I shower and eat, I'm usually at my computer by about 2 in the afternoon. So I work from around 2 in the afternoon to I don't know, 4 a.m. give or take. It's quiet at night, so midnight I'm kind of in the middle of my workday. I write a lot, and at night the email traffic dies down, the cell phone's off, and I like it. It's I have a deck off my house. My backyard is a national forest, so I can sit out on the deck and just enjoy the environment and write to my heart's content.
That's beautiful. You're on Australia working time, so you just fit right in down here,
Yeah. Exactly.
As you know, I do spend a bit of time over in Florida from time to time where we've met before, and it's just perfect time for, if you wake up around about a midday breakfast, you can work through till after midnight. Not a problem. It's a perfect schedule.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, it, 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 it works out well for me. Sometimes I'm not up early enough in the morning for some of the folks down there, but this works.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So the Godfathers of Good came up with Bernard Percy. An interview I was doing about a month ago now, and I was like, what the hell? I had no idea that you guys are like so in sync with each other. And I've seen the photograph since then, which is on the trailer for Artie Merrin's interview, which was just an amazing interview. Is there any kind of, can you tell me a little bit about the Godfathers of Good? And is there some kind of strategy between you four guys that you've got for planet Earth, something that you guys are magically handling together?
Well, it developed as we were talking about before we went, on the air. It turns out that the four of us were down there. There had been an event at Hamilton Island, which is just gorgeous. It's like going into a James Bond movie, going to Hamilton. I just loved it there. Anyway, there was an event and I was speaking there. I'm not sure if the other guys were speaking there or not, but then there was a party. I think it was in Sydney, I think. And we just happened to run into each other. It wasn't anything planned at all. Now, I've known Bernard since the 70s. My wife and his wife sing. Carolyn still sings. My wife doesn't do it professionally, but Bernard's wife has got a gorgeous voice. And I met Bernard through my wife, who was close to Carolyn, Bernard's wife. And that was sometime in the early 70s. Artie, of course, is an icon. Artie Merrin is an icon. I don't know exactly how long you've been around, but Artie is Artie. And Ron I've known since 74. And just a tremendous guy. And so anyway, we ran into each other and somebody snapped this picture of the four of us. And then somebody else went, oh, it's the Godfathers of Good. It was just it's a great tagline. And so we started talking and decided to develop something a little bit more formal in terms of being able to get out precepts from The Way to Happiness, the non-religious moral code that was written by L. Ron Hubbard. And we're focusing on the virtues. I think it's chapter 20. You can edit that out if I've got it, if I've given you the wrong chapter. I think it's chapter 20.
Yes.
So we started creating something to forward those precepts. And we're kind of at the beginning stages of it. We're all friends. We've known each other off and on in different parts of the planet for, a long time. I mean, a long time. Bernard and his wife lived in Los Angeles here for, many decades, 2, 3, 4 decades. And they've just recently moved back to New York. Artie, of course, is in Clearwater. Ron has offices in Sacramento, but it's all over the Far East. He does work in Thailand and Taiwan and stuff. So anyway, it just kind of, fit together. A couple of, 4 guys that have shared, I don't know, a 50-year association, and we decided to do something with it.
That's right. It was combined, 200 years combined.
200 years combined. 200 years of good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So your newsletter is just incredible, and you talk a lot. I've sort of like been trying to find out. I'm very open to investments and ideas. Of course, always trying to make money and so forth, but trying to make money the right way. We're not interested in looking at sin shares and making money out of the wrong purposes in life. But I've seen you've been concentrating a lot on cryptocurrencies. You mention it very often, and also in precious metals. And I've got an interest in both sides of that, very much so. But they're so completely different. And for example, like we've got the precious metals are like fine. You've basically got platinum, gold, and silver, and there are other metals as well, which are really good industrial, but they're quite simple to remember, of course. And then you've got round about, up to 6,000 cryptocurrencies, and they're like, wow, they're like up and down like crazy, so volatile. Even the big one, the big Bitcoin, is such a volatile in regard to an investment is concerned. So I was just wondering if you could actually share with us a little bit, for someone starting an investment strategy, how could they work with these two investment platforms, I suppose we could call it, to be able to build a wealth that's not going to get washed away if the crypto market crashes, or if a crypto that's too heavily investing suddenly crashes, and the consolidation of your wealth as you're building it. So just sort of a bit of a strategy, a bit of a hint on getting started. If someone's getting started from scratch, or they've got a bit of a head start and they want to kick off and really do something effective over a period of time, but probably not too long a period of time,
Well, you make a couple of great points there, Mike. One is that these two investment areas, meaning cryptos and precious metals, are very, very different in that one, has got a physical substance that has been, gold and silver have been money for 5,000 years. On the other hand, you've got this 21st century digital currencies that have just come into the scene. They are new, and they're zeros and ones. It's not a bar of gold. There couldn't be anything more different. That said, these are two investment channels in which I'm focused on in terms of my newsletter. And so, I follow them closely, and I, pick in terms of the digital currencies, pick some of those I like and make recommendations. I do the same with gold and silver. I mean, I think in terms of gold and silver, the smart thing to do if you don't have any is to get some silver bullion. I'm a bigger fan of silver than gold, simply because I think you get more bang for the buck out of silver. And, if things get rough financially, I mean, a real noisy crisis, it'll be easier to put gas in your car or buy groceries with an ounce of silver than an ounce of gold. I mean, a one ounce gold coin today is probably, close to $2,000. Silver, about an ounce of silver, give or take $30 a silver coin. So, it has that practical aspect. I think it also has more potential for the upside. So I'm a fan of silver. Normally, I kind of try to go maybe 70% silver, 30% gold, something like that. And then in the precious metals area, I'm also, study at some length what are called juniors, which are mining, gold and silver mines mostly out of Vancouver, in some cases out of Toronto. And you can get a lot of leverage in a gold mining stock, because these juniors sell for, anywhere from, 10 or 15 cents up to a few bucks. So you can go in and buy 1,000 shares, 2,000 shares, 3,000 shares for a very modest amount of money. You don't have to be rich to be, quote, rich to be investing in those things. And it's my very considered opinion that the bull market in precious metals, which has really just begun, will continue here for another 2 or 3 years, maybe more. So there's a major bull market in the precious metals. In the cryptocurrencies, they have generally been, on an uptrend. The last, week, 10 days, they've been drifting down. The point you made is very, very true. Bitcoins is extremely volatile. Um, and the cryptocurrencies, for anybody listening to this, there's basically kind of two kinds. By that I mean a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, which is the godfather of cryptocurrencies and represents about 59% of all cryptocurrency investments on the planet. And the cryptocurrency investments on the planet are about $330 billion, about a third of $1 trillion. So, and to be very frank about it, up until maybe, I don't know, 2 years ago or so, I was kind of like, no more. Cryptocurrencies are here to stay. They are not going away. This is a growing, explosive area, not only of investment, but in terms of what the cryptos represent. Now, to get back to the point I started to make, when you have a crypto like Bitcoin, which was the initial cryptocurrency introduced in 2009, and there was no other cryptocurrencies for 2-3 years, and then others started to be added. You mentioned 6,000. The last number I heard, there's 7,000 cryptocurrencies. Whether there's 6,000 or 7,000, I'm not sure. There's a lot of them. That said, the top 22 with market cap, and market cap basically means the amount of money that people that have put into the currency. The top 22 have market caps in excess of $1 billion. So this is not child's play. This is big money. Bitcoin has nothing to it really, other than emotion, other than people's feeling that it's going to go up. It's a commodity. The price fluctuates like cotton, soybean oil, gold, silver, but it's just emotion. It's just opinion. Other cryptos, like Ethereum, have a product or service that they represent. Ethereum is the software developed by a kid. He's like a multimillionaire over in Scandinavia somewhere. I forget his name. You may know it, but developed the software for the technology that facilitates the transfer, not only of cryptocurrencies, but other things. And that's called blockchain. And blockchain is a technology that facilitates the manipulation and transfer of assets, contracts, all kinds of things. So Ethereum represents that product, and so represents a product. Ripple, which is a name of a cheap wine people used to drink when I was in college in the 60s. I don't know why I have no idea why they took that name. But Ripple has 200 banks that are customers of a software that facilitates the international transfer of wealth. So Ripple represents something. Bitcoin doesn't. So there are cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that are nothing other than held up by emotion and what people think about them. There are others that represent products and services, and I tend to gravitate towards those because, as you say, people can go, Bitcoin's going down. Everybody kind of agrees, and it goes down. Yeah. But when the currency is representing something, you've got an asset there. So people can, to get back to your original question, they can invest in these small gold mines, silver mines for very inexpensively. The same is true of cryptocurrencies. You can just go, if you've got an extra few $100, you can just go open an account and buy some. You can buy some Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is about $11,000 today. You can take $300 or $400 and go throw it and go, okay, good. I'm buying $300 worth of Bitcoin. I'm just making these up in terms of small numbers. So you don't have to have big investment dollars to put your toe into those waters, both in terms of the cryptocurrencies and in terms of the precious metals. And so in my newsletter, besides writing about various things, I then make recommendations. Well, here's a good one. And the ones I've been recommending, the gold mines I've got about a half a dozen of them, and they're anywhere from 11 cents to, $2.50.
I'm gonna look at these juniors. I haven't looked at the juniors before. It's interesting.
They're, if you want to make some money in the midst of this bull market, they're a very good way to do that. You've got to know what you're doing. And well, I have been following, investing in, and recommending precious metals for 30 years. But that was just bullion. And it's been in more recent times that I've started to focus on these junior gold mines. And a very good friend of mine is a complete genius in this area. He's been at it 30 years. And we swap newsletters on gold mines. And so I look at things he recommends, and then I have my own technology in terms of investing. And so far, I'm doing well there. I like it, and I make, as far as the newsletter is concerned, I make recommendations. These things are $1 or $2. They're not expensive. So I repeat, a person can put their toe in the water if they haven't done any investing, and they've got a little money set aside in here in the U.S. They're called 401ks or IRAs. They're basically retirement accounts. I'm sure Australia has the same thing with a different name, and
Yep.
people can take those, some funds there and stick their toe either in the cryptocurrency market or the gold and silver market, or both. That's a long-winded answer to your question, Mike.
It was perfect. I've got a gold mine full of data there, literally. Okay. So, I'll talk to you more about the juniors, and maybe we can put a bit more out about that for our listeners, because I never heard of the juniors before. And of course, you've got these new gold mines coming out. There was a great movie, Matthew McConaughey, where there was a junior, and it was just a complete fraud. And someone made a lot of money out of that, But when you've got a real junior, wow, what a great investment, rather than spending, like you said, you're not buying the bullions, you're investing in the product of getting the gold out of the ground into bullion, and that's a whole different part of the production line.
Exactly right. And you've got to know, key there is the management. If there's gold in the ground, fine. If you don't have good management, and good geological surveys and so forth, so what? So You've got to get companies not only that have got gold in the ground, but that have expert management, good geologists. And so you're right, there are several pieces to that which are more complicated than buying silver rounds. What are they called down there?
We've got the silver
kangaroos.
Yeah, we have so they've got the little bars, and there are more ingots than the bars. They're the ingots, are they? They're called the ingots. Yeah, they're gorgeous. They're like they feel incredible.
Yeah.
There's something about it's just sort of like, for some reason, it just puts a little smile on your face, and anyone will say that.
I forget what they're called. I mean, most industrial nations have they mint coins, bullion coins. In the U.S. they're called eagles.
We got kookaburras. Yeah.
So, but you can buy one of those, or you can buy a bunch of them.
Yes.
But as you point out, I mean, there's a real difference between that's the final product of the mine. So you got the silver bar, the gold bar in your hand, but you can invest in these mines. You pick the right one, and as they develop their mine and get ore to wherever they send it, the stock goes up, and one does well, hopefully.
And what about platinum? I read your recent newsletter on platinum, and that was beautiful, getting an education on the track of the history of platinum. But it's a beautiful metal, and um, I've actually never held a piece, so I want to see if we can just get one. You know?
They're so gorgeous, and it's, they're white, kind of white silver,
Yeah.
uh, and I started doing a piece because they're kind of like the third precious metal, as you point out. And I started doing a little research on them. I have followed them from the investment perspective, but then started digging, and the platinum's got a real history. It's beautiful. It is generally a little pricier than gold, but yeah, it's gorgeous, and a lot of platinum in jewelry, and platinum in the catalytic converters in cars, which reduces the toxicity of the exhaust. So there's huge demand for platinum in the automobile industry. And if you look at China or India, that industry is going like this, which means there's more demand for platinum. So it's a good investment as well.
Beautiful. So we'd like to say again, we've got cryptos and we've got precious metals. What advice, like say if I've got a really big bull market going on, I've got a big increase, say I've doubled my money in crypto, but I can sort of see going like this, and I'm worried that it's going to drop again. What's the best way I can consolidate that win to actually just to pull it out in cash, or pull it out in gold, or what should I do with it? I'll pull a part of it out rather than just letting it crash back down again, because it will go down again, it will go up again.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, one of the challenges, for lack of a better word, in terms of investing in whether it's cryptos or precious metals or stocks, for that matter, yes. They all go through a cycle, and I write about that cycle in the newsletter. Not to sound like a used car salesman, but there are issues on that exact subject. How do you know when to sell? It's critical, because you can buy at well, I mean, Bitcoin is a perfect example. Well, the cryptocurrency market's a perfect example. It was at 2018, and it was like, soared.
Yes.
And then crashed, and it's building again, but they go through these cycles. I am, if you look at importances first, I think precious metals is, that would be a more important piece of an investment portfolio, particularly if somebody's kind of starting out. Then if you want to diversify a little bit, then you can get into the cryptos. When you, the time to get out, there's an actual real tech to it. For those people that really want to dive into this subject, I'm going to recommend a book, and then I'll do a little explaining. There's a book written by a guy named Ted Warren, and that book, which is out of print but still available on Amazon, has got a very corny title. It's called "How to Make the Stock Market Make Money for You." How to make the stock market make money for you. And Ted Warren did a bunch of research, and there's a lot of graphs in the book, and he was able to expose how traders on the New York Stock Exchange were manipulating the price of stocks. And he goes, okay, good. If the graph looks like this, you can tell the manipulation is here. And he basically talked about 4 stages. One is a base in which the insiders are collecting very slowly. They're accumulating. Doesn't matter whether it's a stock, precious metals, or crypto. I mean, I've been applying this to cryptos, and it seems to be working. I've used it for precious metals and stocks for years. So you have this base. The base can vary in length. You have to look at a long-term graph, usually years, at least many, many months. And then you'll see whatever the product is, it breaks out of the base, which is when you buy. And, then it runs up. you have to be aware of the fact that these products have PR machinery behind them. You know, so let's say you're buying American Airlines, you know, and it starts and it breaks out, and now you start seeing articles in the Wall Street Journal. You know, American Airline, you know, trips to Hawaii are great. The airline's booming. Up it goes, up it goes. And when the PR gets intense and the volume becomes very high,
Mm.
because the people that were accumulating at the lower levels are now dumping. And the people that don't know better are affected by the PR and they're buying. And the manipulators are selling. And so you have to look at the volume, and it starts going like this. And all of a sudden the graph is going like this. Get out.
Yes.
So you've got the base, you've got the run up, you've got the distribution, and you've got the crash. So there's, you know, there's more elements to it, or there's more to those four elements. But for people that really want to get into that world, that book is a great teaching aid. So you get out when the PR is great, when the volume is very high, and when the graph, you got to follow this by graphs. And when the graph looks like this, and you start seeing the top go like this, that's the time to step out. Sometimes you step out early. Okay, well, you still make money. I remember one time after I read the book and I had been using it for stocks, then the last part of his book is on commodities. So I thought, well, I'll venture into that. And so I bought a commodity. I had very little money. I had some friends threw in some money with me. And so I bought this commodity, and the base was just like this. And then it was sugar, is what it was. It was sugar. You know, sugar, cotton, soybean, all that stuff gets traded. And so the United Sugar Council then came out with a press release. It said, sugar's going to stay at 7 cents. It's never going up. So I bought more. I figured, okay, good. They're trying to manipulate. And sure enough, a couple of months later, up it starts. And it's going and it's going and it's going. And I'm kind of buying more as it's going up. And it got reasonably high. And I called my broker. I said, what's the, what was it, Merrill Lynch, broker was it this time? I said, well, what's corporate saying about sugar? He said, we just got a dispatch to buy. I said, sell. Because they're now getting their brokers to promote.
Yeah.
I said, sell. So, it turned out to be, I sold, we made a fair amount of money, and it went up a little bit more, and then it crashed. So there's a whole tech to it. It's a whole world. I kind of have an affinity for it. So that's why I cover that stuff in the newsletter.
Thank you. So yeah. Trying to predict when the run is just about to happen. That's where the key is. Yeah.
That's where I'm sorry.
The key is trying to predict when the runners take off. Yeah.
Yeah. It gets a little tricky because you'll see a base and then you'll see a commodity or a stock. They'll go out of the base a little bit and then the manipulators will sell into that and try and drive you out. It's a false start. So it has to kind of go up and hold there. But yeah, the key is when to step out. I don't know anybody that, gets in at the bottom and always gets in at the absolute top. But if you're, if you've done it right, you've made at least, Ted Warren said, minimum 300% increase. And so personally, I just always use that as a gauge. That's, 300% isn't bad.
Yeah, it's better than doubling your money. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So we'll
Yeah.
put all these details. We'll get a summary after the interview, and we'll make sure everything's in the description, so anyone follow any links and they can find you, of course, for more questions. So I want to look at like young people now. I've got people just like listen to me. You've got this thing called a mobile phone, and a mobile phone comes with a monthly plan, and then you've got your Stan television, and you've got your Amazon Prime, and you've got your Spotify plan, and you might have some Google products as well, and then you've got a credit card, and then we've got our cost of living, and then we've got a car loan, and then we've got to have food, and we've got to go out for dinner. So all these things that we're surrounded by, which is just this layers and layers of debt, and then somehow we've got to have the discipline to break into an investment strategy. You probably answered it a bit earlier with just to get a small bit of crypto or something like that. But is there any advice you can give to get out of this continual layering and layering of these extra life luxuries that we surround ourselves with? And most of them are just basically digital entertainment, which come with a monthly subscription. What advice can you give to break out of that so that it doesn't actually overwhelm us and consume us and squash us?
Well, one thing that should be done that's seems to be very, very difficult, but always winds up well is you got your income, however often you do your financial planning, weekly, monthly, whatever. You look at the income, take 5 to 10% of that right off the top before you confront the bills for your TV channel, your Google, your this, and put it away.
Yep.
Put it away somewhere that's hard to get hold of, and just stash it. Just make that a habit of pruning some money off the top of your income and putting it away. I mean, what often happens is, the money comes in and okay, good. You look at the bills and there's the mortgage and the car payment and the this and the that. And you go, okay. And you don't pay attention to, no, take some money off the top and put it away. For many years, Mike, close to 25 years, I was the CEO of a business management company in Los Angeles. Business management is a niche industry in the entertainment field. In LA and New York, there are business managers. And we handle the business and financial affairs of entertainment people, actors, actresses, producers, directors, screenwriters, rock stars. They all have business managers. So, we collect their income, pay their bills, oversee the taxes, the investments, all that stuff. I retired from there some years back. But I remember one client in particular. It's just a good example of what I was just saying. And this woman had a lot of money. I won't mention the names, but a lot of money. And but she wouldn't save. And we're kind of responsible to make sure she's viable, and she would save. So I finally got her to agree to prune 10% off her monthly. She had a large trust, and out of the income from the trust. And I set up an account in Switzerland. So now, some weeks later, she calls me on the phone. She's at a Mercedes dealer. She's going to buy a new Mercedes. And she said, just take the money out of the, out of the account. I said, well, it's in Switzerland. You're going to have to, and I said, it's going to take a few days. Well, the emotion went out of the buying of the Mercedes, and she was driving a nice car. She didn't need a new Mercedes. Not that I would deny her a new Mercedes, but the impulse is, oh, I've got money, I'll spend it. So my advice to young folks that are starting, take some money off the top, get it out of your own reach, or put it into, I don't know what the laws are there down under, but here if you put money into one of these retirement accounts, it's difficult to get out without paying a penalty.
Yeah.
Not that that's going to stop somebody, but it may give them pause. Well, I don't want to pay the penalty. So that's one piece of advice that I would recommend certainly young folks follow. Everybody should follow it.
Absolutely, yeah. And can even like make a game out of it, you know? So you've got,
Yeah,
well, the portfolio can be a great game. Moving it like you're sort of shifting it around in there, but not taking it out and trying to make it grow within the portfolio.
exactly. Yes, exactly. And
Mm.
that's its own. You're right. That's its own game.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. We can probably talk about all that another time. How to set up a really cool structure within the portfolio and just play that game internally without. The rules are you don't touch, nothing comes out. It stays in, or we put more in there, and we just build it and see how big it can get.
There you go. That's a very pro survival game.
Yes, awesome. Now, you've been a senior credit officer for two major banks in LA and San Fran. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was the senior credit officer at a bank in the San Francisco area, and then when we moved, my wife and I moved to Los Angeles, I became the regional vice president of a bank in Beverly Hills, and so yeah, I have a banking background. Yeah.
So from seeing you've definitely seen the traditional way of banking and inside with the cash and cash deposits in the bank, and we've gone to credit cards and debit cards and so forth. How do you see finance, the digital finance system, moving into the new millennium, 10 years from now, 50 years from now? How do you see the whole global system? What change do you envision is going to really occur, and how's the culture going to be affected by this? Is it going to drive the rich further apart, or is it going to facilitate mankind as a whole?
Well, it's a key question, Mike. And as a matter of true coincidence, this month's newsletter, which I'm about halfway through, is on that exact subject. The planet is going through what is currently a major, I underline the word major, shift in the monetary system of planet Earth. There is a war on cash on this planet. Cash is going away. Cash will be a relic. There won't be any more cash. Governments may make it illegal. And cash, and why is that? Because governments can't control cash. You can take cash out of the bank and stick it in your safe or under your mattress or whatever. Governments can't control it. And bank accounts will be digital. There'll be zeros and ones. This is not some conspiracy theory. This is coming. And it's coming very rapidly, and more rapidly than most people think. The senior bank on the planet is called the Bank for International Settlements. This is the godfather of the global financial mafia. And the Bank for International Settlements, which most people have never heard of, is in Basel, Switzerland. Despite being in Switzerland, Swiss law does not affect it. Its employees are immune from prosecution. They have their own militia on the property. This entity is above the law. It is the central banker's central bank. So all the central banks of the world, I would say all of them, 60 central banks of the world, of all the major industrial nations, are members there. Central banks, for folks that don't know, these are the banks in a country that control the economy of the country. They control interest rates, the amount of money in circulation. These central banks all belong to the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. They did a survey recently, end of 2019, of the central banks that are members, and found that about 80% of them were in the process of testing, piloting, and in some cases had completed digital currency for their countries. Digital currency for their country, replacing cash with zeros and ones. China is the leading industrial country in terms of its progress here. 4 states in China are operating now on digital currencies. Employees are being paid in digital currencies. Tunisia has a digital currency. Senegal has got a digital currency. There are digital currency plans going on in the Ukraine, in Japan, in the Bahamas, in various other countries around the world. And these are, they're testing it. These are P2P, meaning peer-to-peer, person-to-person exchanges of digital currency, person to business, and to business. So this is coming. It's coming very, very rapidly. The US Federal Reserve Bank just made an agreement with MIT, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, to develop and test digital currency for the Fed. So in the newsletter, this month's newsletter, I've got it, all the major digital currencies broken down. So what's the problem with digital currencies? Well, the government can track everything that you do. You go into the liquor store to buy a 6-pack of beer, and you give them your debit card, and you get a note back going, yeah, you bought 2 6-packs this month already. Sorry. Now it sounds like science fiction. Trust me, this is coming.
Yeah.
Oh, no question. This is coming, and the government can see everything you're doing with your money. This is why they're getting rid of cash, and why they're implementing digital currencies. There was a conference about a year ago in which Christine Lagarde, who at the time was the head of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, she's now the head of the European Central Bank. This woman's she's a French communist. And somebody asked her, well, what about digital currencies? And the expected response was, oh, no. And she goes, oh, no, digital currencies are definitely something that we see doing in the future. So I will tell your listeners, watchers, this is coming. This is coming. What do you do about it? Well, you do some of the things we were talking about. You get yourself some precious metals, get yourself some digital currencies or cryptocurrencies, because the cryptocurrency investment world is separate from this bank digital currencies. The bank digital currencies are called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. And CBDCs are being implemented, tested, and in some cases implemented by central banks around planet Earth. So I would at least get some precious metals. The digital currencies in which we were talking about earlier, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, these are outside of that world, and nobody is controlling those. But if a central bank is issuing the digital currency to your bank account, now the government has got its eyeballs on everything that you do. So that's the answer to your question. That's coming, and it is an effort for governments to control people's spending and behavior. And it's one of the reasons I'm writing about it, so that people are aware, because most people don't have a clue about what I just said. You ask, I don't know, 100 people, did you know that 80% of the central banks on the planet are now in the process of testing, piloting digital currencies? People, what people know about this world is Bitcoin. That word has become part of the lexicon. But there's a lot going on. You mentioned earlier, just kind of talking about some stuff, talking about the major tech companies, and Facebook and Twitter, and it's a digital universe. I mean, it's a digital universe. Google, and I have a interesting article on this. You know, when Sergey Brin and Larry Page were developing the Google algorithm when they were doing PhD work at Stanford, Sergey Brin would rollerblade into a conference room in which was sitting a representative of the CIA, DARPA, which is the U.S. Defense Department's Dr. Strangelove, you know, weird stuff, NSA, the National Security Administration, and there's a fourth one, which I've forgotten. And they would report to them. And those entities funded Google's early research. Google is an intelligence front. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
If you do a little research, you'll see they're recruiting. Google's executives are now former US intelligence executives, for real. So this is the world in which we've got to not only live, but survive and flourish and prosper. And being aware that the international bankers of planet Earth are seeking to digitize everyone's bank account, you've got to prepare for this. You know, it's not tomorrow. I'm not saying it's happening tomorrow, but it is coming faster than most people think. The governor of the PBOC, the People's Bank of China, said in a recent interview, you know, they asked him, okay, good, when is China going to roll out the entire thing? The entire, they call it a digital, you know, they call it an ERMB. As you probably know, the Chinese currency is called either the renminbi or the yuan. It has two names. And their digital currency is called the ERMB. And so they asked him, you know, when are you planning to, you know, go, you know, release the whole thing, not just these 4 states? And he said, well, we don't have an exact date yet, but we're looking at using it during the Beijing Winter Olympics of 2022. So, okay, maybe you've got a couple of years, but be aware of this, folks, and plan. And, you know, learn about it.
So look, I'm just summarizing this whole thing. I've been trying to see the concept of what's happening, because we've had the central banks and now we've got these cryptocurrencies, which is a decentralized currency, which we can still buy and spend, and we can a lot of different services do take this digital currency now, and now the central banks are making their own digital currency. Do you see that they're going to try to engulf these decentralized currencies and actually bring the whole thing back in under their blanket?
I'll address that, but important for the audience to understand that is difference. The decentralized currencies, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, are decentralized. Nobody is in charge of that, right? There isn't a CEO of Bitcoin, but the central bank currencies that are looking to go into your bank account, those are centralized. You have a central authority controlling. 2 different things: decentralized, centralized. Now, your question is, are the centralized international bankers going to try to take over the decentralized cryptos? I will say this, it freaks out the speed with which the decentralized digital currencies exploded on the planet, caught most of the central bankers off guard. Facebook came up with a digital currency called the Libra. It's very, very clever. And I wrote an article, you know, one of my issues is on this, and I got a fair amount, not a lot, but traffic back from people going, oh, Facebook, you're promoting Facebook. No. But they took some of their tech people and they developed this currency, and this currency is clever as hell. It's called Libra, Libra. And they generally for unbanked populations. So you have to have a smartphone, And with the smartphone, you can go buy some Libra, put it in your phone, and then use it to buy, or you can send money around the world like you would send a text.
Yeah.
The money that you use to buy the Libra goes to a nonprofit corporation that is run by a bunch of corporate people that then take that money and they buy dollars, euros, gold, silver, whatever. So the Libra is backed by hard assets. It's clever. And if you have, all you need is, you do need a smartphone, but you don't need to have a bank account. Anyway, this kind of goes to address the question that you asked. So the guy that developed this for Facebook, he was a Facebook executive and then he became in charge of Libra. He testified before the US Congress about how the progress they were making, and they were, you know, ready to roll it out and so forth. I mean, the international bankers of the world went crazy. The Treasury Sec started slamming the guy. The chairman of the US Fed, Jerome Powell, started attacking him. English bankers started attacking him because they're basically way ahead of these central banks. And the central banks are just going, don't you dare. Now, the Libra people, you can see this, you know,
Yeah, totally.
but
Wow.
in the articles that I read, several of the banks, including China, were motivated by the fact that Libra had actually come into existence and were much further along than the central banks, which is what prompted the central banks to go, wait a minute. So they're trying to stop Libra and do their own thing. Now, to get back to your question, I think they'll do everything they can to regulate and control decentralized currencies, and I don't think they'll be successful.
Yeah.
I mean, there are two, you know, it's too libertarian there. Now, some of the some of the 7,000 decentralized cryptocurrencies will probably bail. But I also think that there are enough free-thinking folks in that universe that they won't do it. And it's very hard to track that down, very hard. So I think it'll be a contest, Mike. And it's one to keep your eyes on, and it's one that I'm, you know, following closely and writing about because I think it's an important piece of people's lives, and they need to stay informed about it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that really put the pieces together for me. I had a question on the Libra, like, well, why would we have this? Facebook's probably got just as much controversy and connections as what Google does. And then why would we sponsor a cryptocurrency made by Facebook? But the way you've explained it there, and how is the Libra outside of that control of Facebook, which is obviously controlled very heavily? We can see that through the censorship that occurs and so forth. How will we know that the Libra would be outside of that manipulation?
It's a good question, and it's a centralized currency. It's centralized.
Mm-hmm.
There is
it is centralized.
Centralized meaning that it does have a control point. It's not decentralized.
Yes.
There is a nonprofit corporation that runs it. Yeah. The people on that corporation, there are 27 of the biggest corporations on the planet. They are compensated when they take the person that purchases the Libra. That money goes into bank accounts, and this corporation gets the interest from those deposits. So they make money that way. They are, they're mandated to ensure that it's fair and so forth. That's yet to be tested. And it may not be the best method. Facebook is just one of 27 corporations on that corporation that control the Libra funds. I think I would be very surprised if there aren't others that come out with a similar concept, because I think the concept's smart. Person can use their smartphone, buy a currency that has hard asset backing, and then just use it. Facebook faces a lot of counterintention from other central banks, but I think there will be others that will come into fruition that aren't as centralized as Libra will be.
Yes, yes. Well, I've only got one thing to say about that, John.
Yeah?
We're having a big party, and I want 2 more cases of beer. Don't tell me I've hit the limit. I got friends waiting for me back at the barbecue, mate. So that's right. We never want that to happen, right?
Absolutely.
Wow, thank you. That was incredible. Unlike, the confusion that I had between centralization, decentralization, and then I've heard you speak about the Libra so much, and I'm like a bit like, really? But Facebook, but the Libra, and even Maureen's gone. My wife, she's gone, come on, this is like Facebook's connected and the whole deal, and so how could it be? But this, just the concept of that alone, it's like it's a standalone. It really is a standalone crypto, the way that it could be run, and it would change internationally. It would change the third world class of people.
That's what they say their intention is to bank the unbanked.
Yes.
Now, I have not researched, because as I said, I wrote this issue on Libra, and I was validating the concept of it because I think it's very clever. And I got not a lot, but maybe a half a dozen emails, people going, oh, it's Facebook, Well, I know the CIA helped fund Facebook. I know that. So you go, well, to what degree is the CIA going to get their intel into the Libra consortium? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think it's a potential risk. What I think is the creation of that currency for unbanked people is very clever, and if Libra doesn't make it, somebody else will. That doesn't, that isn't beholden to the CIA or whatever, because as you mentioned, they're very, very, very biased. They're anyway. That's a whole nother subject. The degree to which big tech is manipulating things.
We'll get more on that on the next round.
Okay.
Good. So, John, in your life, has there been a time when you found yourself backed up against the ropes and you had no choice other than to fight your way out?
Well, I don't know if this fits your question exactly, but some years ago, I went to I do human rights work. And among other things, the human rights work that I do targets the abuse of the mental health industry, of the psychiatric industry. And there's a whole story to this, but there was a convention of psychiatrists in Washington, D.C., a big convention. And through some strong intention, I got approved to speak to this convention of psychiatrists. Now, this is a hall full of psychiatrists, and my name and the organization I represent, to a certain degree, it may or may not strike fear, but it's not a highly validated concept with this group. So I start up this 3-day conference. And the conference is trying to prove that mental illness is biologic, physiological. And I had managed to get accepted to address this convention of psychiatrists for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And I worked on my speech and I didn't have too much attention on the convention until I started up the stairs, and I turned around and I looked at this hall, which is full of people who hate me. And I went, oh, there's a lot of psychiatrists in this room. And I don't know if they're going to throw tomatoes or boo or, you know. So, you know, I got up, I had 3 minutes and to, you know, tell them that they were needlessly drugging millions of children. And it's kind of a long story, but we got them to drop the intention of the conference. And when I was done, the host, the moderator introduces me, and I knew the moderator was a major psychiatrist from a university. So he introduces me, and the room goes dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. So I basically, you know, slammed what they were doing to children. And then at the end, at 3 minutes, because I had drilled this thing within seconds, I finish. And I held up some booklets that my organization had published. And nothing. There's no sound. It's a big auditorium. Psychiatrists everywhere. Nothing. Not a word. Nothing for about 15 seconds. And then from way in the back of the room, one person applauded me, and I walked down, and then, you know, I got some attacks afterwards. But it was speaking of, you know, kind of dancing around some counter intention. That was fun. Anyway.
Oh my God! you told me earlier that there's no way you could do what I do, going off the edge of a building. You know, to stand up and address a huge room full of nasty psychiatrists. You're a brave man. And it would, to be a fly on the wall would have been worth all the cryptocurrency on the planet.
Well, it was a defining moment of my life to be able to do that, because it was great.
Wow.
To communicate some truth to some very evil intentioned people. I enjoyed it. Even afterwards, you know, some of them came up and they were like, it was like, I got the message out. And then the end result is they were trying to get a statement that mental illness was biologic, and they came out with a press release that was completely, I could have written the press release. Well, we don't know what it is, but so it was a good result. You have opportunities like that. You get like one opportunity like this in a lifetime. You know, you'll be working for a mental health group, and then be able to get the truth out. So it was fun. I wouldn't get anywhere near what you do. That'd scare the shit out of me, climbing up doing the stuff you do. But I guess I shouldn't say that. But it would. You can edit that out if you want. Yeah, I'm not good with heights, but so I don't know how you got your affinity for building your company, doing what you do.
That's we can talk about that on your balcony. Yeah, you can see just in the background here, you can see that's my championship belt. and I won the state championship, professional state champion, 1990. I was all had a swollen nose, and I didn't have much going on in life other than fighting and surfing and having fun, you know. And I think you're always looking for the perfect round. You're trying to have the perfect round, you know. And that was the perfect 3-minute round. You couldn't have a better 3-minute round than what you just told me. Well done.
Well, yeah, well, thanks. What were you doing? Martial arts?
No, professional boxing.
Oh, boxing. Oh, cool.
Yes, yeah. So that's yeah. I love the I just follow the boxing sport avidly. I love it. I'm not a violent guy, but the boxing game is just irresistible. I love watching a fight. I love watching. Gervonta Davis is the little dynamite at the moment. He's like the protege of Floyd Money Mayweather, and this little dynamite Tank Davis is absolutely. He's just beaming with life. He's probably the most gravitational, entertaining boxer I've ever seen, and it's a lot of fun. He's the one I'm following at the moment. But there's a lot of the sport's very alive, and I just love it. It's nothing to do with being a tough guy, being a nasty guy, or want to inflict pain against other guys. It's just it's got to be the greatest game. I love it. You know, you got some major publications, right? You've got the 99. I'm looking at your books. The 99 Strongest Banks in America, Crisis by Design, The Coming Financial Crisis, A Look Behind the Wizard's Curtain is your most recent one that's came out. They're all Amazon bestsellers. And your online publication, which comes out, is it monthly your publication comes out? Or,
Yeah.
Any you can take up any one of those publications, and it just completely takes you in the door to becoming informed, and it's an amazing publication. Your website, Strategic Financial Intelligence, you can find that. John Truman Wolf, what is your message to the world?
Well, it depends on what hat I'm speaking from. Relative to kind of what we've been talking about, you know, I write that newsletter to inform people about what's going on in terms of planetary finance. Most of the people that operate in that universe are, you know, not operating for the best interest of mankind. They are a controlling crowd, and the books the books that I've written kind of in that world. I started with the book Crisis by Design, and I wrote that right after the global financial crisis, and then in 2012 I updated it, and then in 2018, I can't remember the exact year, I got a new publisher, and we republished the book. I added 10,000 words, 2 new chapters, and that's the book. That edition is the one that became a #1 bestseller.
Yes.
But after I'd written the book, Mike, some friends of mine in Taiwan, they got the book to some people in Beijing, and she sent me an email. I don't know if I told you the story. And she said, you know, the CCP would like to talk to you about the information in the book. And I thought it was a joke, you know. So I have them fly me over business class and put me up in this hotel. I knew Beijing and I knew this hotel. So she sends me an email back the next day. They'll fly you any way you want. They'll put you up wherever you want. And so the Chinese government flew me to Beijing. I spent a week there, you know, talking to some reasonably prominent people, and trying to convince them to be more pan-determined and more, you know, kind of embrace a leadership position financially in the world. These guys are accumulating gold, you know, faster than you can imagine. I think they intend to, I'm just guessing, but intend to back this currency with gold. When I was in Beijing, I had dinner with the president of China Gold. It's the largest gold mining consortium on planet Earth. This guy's got 40,000 employees, Mike. and he was buying up gold mines around the planet like Pac-Man. So they're very gold focused. So anyway, so one of the things that I talked about, it'd take too long to get into it, but one of the things that I recommend to people is don't bank with the huge international banks. Use local regional banks. There's reasons for that, which would take a while to explain. But then people would send me emails, well, what bank? I don't, So I did hundreds of hours of research, and I found this, 100 strong banks in America. And that's why I wrote that book. The other books that are up there, if people like fiction, I have a Private Eye series up there. There's 3 of them. I've got the 4th one on my computer here. I'm about half done. And I love writing the fiction. It just doesn't sell as well as the nonfiction, but I like it. And the newsletter it's where I'm focused now, because I've now, in my lifetime, I've never seen a titanic shift like this in global finance. This is a big deal. The entire monetary system of the planet is changing. And I'm keeping track of it with that newsletter. strategicfinancialintelligence.com. And, I want folks to understand what's going on. You can read it. You don't want to take the suggestions, that's fine, but at least you'll know,
That's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on.
Cool.
All right, great. So I really want to do this again with you. Probably we can take up so many more in depth of these subjects we've been through today. Perhaps next time we can sit out on your balcony and we can have the outdoor in the afternoon before the sun goes down, and we can really see what it's like up there where you're living. That would be amazing.
Anytime, Mike.
I'd love to do so. Wow, thank you. Again, thank you so much. I feel so privileged to have done this interview, and I really appreciate the time you've given us, because a lot of people are going to see this interview, and I know it's going to benefit a lot of people in a lot of ways. And John Trimenwolf, I'll see you next time on the ropes.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. A great conversation.
I appreciate it, John. This is like fantastic. Dynamite. I'm smiling from ear to ear. Beautiful.
Cool. I mentioned to you, probably not, but we're 6,000 feet up, and it's a little valley in the national forest. There's a couple thousand people live up here, along with the bears.
Yeah.
And so a few weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, my brother lives with us. I rent a room to my brother, and so I'm up. I'm about going to bed. It's like 5:30 in the morning, which is about when I go to bed, and my brother gets up at that hour. So he comes walking up to me, he goes, "There's a bear in the garage." And I go, "What is the bear doing in the garage? How did the bear get in the garage? The door's closed." He goes, "I don't know." So there's a bear in there. He's rummaging through. We've got a second refrigerator in the garage. So anyway, the bear finally goes, and I go, "How does a bear get in the garage?" He go, "Well, they put their paw underneath the door and they lift it."
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So I go, well, I'll just have to bolt the door. I talked to some neighbors. No, 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 don't do that. The bears are so strong that they'll lift the bolt out. I go, oh, you know, what do we do? So there's some woman up here who is referred to as the bear lady. She's been up here a long time, and she knows everything about bears. She said, and the bear came back twice. So we get in common with the bear lady. She says, turn the radio on loud 24/7, keep the door down, and the bear thinks somebody's in the garage and they won't go in. So that was the handling. Who knew, you know? I'm just going to say, you know, let's stay in calm. I'd be delighted to do, you know, another talk. There are a few other things that we could talk about in terms of the banks in Australia.
Yeah, to find the friendly banks in Australia would be a great list. I'll try and get that, and I can share that as well, you know, so guys know which are the friendly banks we can stay a little bit back off the main line.
The ideal datum is you want a bank with assets less than $50 billion. Assets less than $50 billion. Why? Because the Bank for International Settlements at a meeting in Brisbane in 2018 issued a policy called bail-in. A bail-in means if your bank is not doing well and is troubled, they can take the depositor's money and convert it to bank stock. Now that applies to banks around the world, and they pronounced that, they initiated that at the meeting of the Bank for International Settlements in Brisbane 3 years ago. So, but bail-in policy only applies to banks of 50 billion or more. So if you're in a bank with less than 50 billion in assets, you're not likely to be bailed in if the bank fails and they take your money, because they've done it. They'll take depositors' money and convert it to bank stock. Who the hell wants stock in a failing bank?
Yeah. We drove from from LA, from Santa Monica Boulevard, and we drove all the way up the coast.
That's a long drive.
Beautiful driver. So we've got this big giant 4-wheel drive thing just hiding, and head on up there, and it was like one of the best road trips ever. Just beautiful. And it changes from LA and going up there, and it just gets that big forest there with the big gigantic trees, and it was one of the best drives. It was definitely one of the best drives of my life. It's beautiful. So I figure you're sort of heading up that sort of same thing there somewhere, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you're right. It's a beautiful trip. And yeah, I mean, if you land in LA, you go up the 5 freeway, and to get to our place, you get out of LA about an hour, and then turn into the mountains. So that'd be great. Yeah. Delphi has become I helped get it established in 1974. I was up there for a decade. I listen to these kids that graduate from there now. It brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
They do such a magnificent job with these young people. I'm delighted to hear your son's there, and if you're going to visit them, but you definitely, let us know and swing by Pine Mountain Club. All right. Well, I've lost visual here, and I'm going to go eat, and you go eat, and let's stay in calm, Mike.
I will, Bruce. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. Be well.
I'll talk to you. I appreciate it. $1 billion, mate. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.